Good evening. Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Welcome to the March edition of the Airstream Wireless Incorporated members meeting. We're streaming live again. Everything seems to be working, so let's get on with it. So tonight is not a huge agenda. There's a few news items and things you're probably already aware of anyway. Just a reminder. Now, next week, is it next week, the barbecue? It's exactly 1 week today. So we're still looking for volunteers for the barbecue. I know that everyone's heard heaps about that, and you're probably sick of hearing about us asking you about it. I do need to show you the volunteer sign-up page we've made available. You would have received a link in your email to this. If you are still available on the day, Wednesday, 6th of April, all day, so that is on a Wednesday. I know a lot of people aren't available because they're working or other commitments. That's fine. We only really need people there for an hour or two, so and we are still quite desperately looking for people. We're not sure if we'll be able to go ahead with it yet because at the moment it's only Tony and one other or a few other people, and really there's not enough to cover the whole period of the day. So if you can make yourself available for an hour or two on Wednesday, please put your name in on this form. If you can't find the form or you don't have the email or whatever, just let someone know, give us an email or whatever, and we would be very appreciative. It's going to be a really good event because we've been waiting for quite a while on the queue to get into the Bunnings barbecue. This is the one we took at Kenttown, but the Woodville one, a little bit larger, probably better exposure there as well, and we've been waiting quite a while to get in there. So yeah, it should be really good as far as fundraising, and it'll be good to make sure we've got as many people and as much stock on hand and everything like that on the day. So once again, yeah, please let us know if you can help. I'll try and get down there for a bit as well during the day. What else have we got on updates? We'll do another presentation tonight, as we have been doing. It's kind of a follow-on from last month, where we had the whole client configuration of a MikroTik and Ubiquiti setup with VLANs. Justo's done a bit more work and put together a extension to that, which goes into how to set up some static routing and basically the next steps that you would logically do as far as just a normal, simple setup that you would get yourself onto the Airstream network. So that's coming up shortly. And I've also been asked to give a bit more information about how we do DNS on the network. Domain names, we run our own internal domain name on the .WAN space, and that's a distributed system that we've kind of slowly been iterating how that works, and there's a few other technologies involved, so I'll explain that with a really awesome diagram that I've put together. Should be great. And I'll probably do that after yours. Does that make sense? Or before? How do you feel?
Whichever.
You can go first. So that's the main agenda for tonight. There'll be general network updates as well. In fact, I think we'll move straight into network updates if that's all right. Sam, would you be able to do a bit of an update as well? Thank you, that'd be nice. Just what you know recently happenings.
You didn't give me a warning.
You've got to let him at least think about it for about 2 minutes, which is about exactly how much time he's got. And just so you know what's happening as far as there have been a few outages, there's a bit of work planned as well, so just so everyone's aware of what's going on. And really that's about it, so we'll get right into it. Network. Do you want to go first, Justo?
Adam wants to go first.
Adam? Anyone with some news? Let's hear from someone other than me. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Excellent. Welcome everyone again to another meeting. Okay, so just bear with me. I don't have very good minutes, but we'll get there. Okay, so we had our network meeting again at the start of the month. We have on the first Thursday, which is the week before our committee meeting. And just a couple of things, a couple of updates from that meeting that happened. So we now have approval to to purchase equipment and to install, obviously, the equipment for the point-to-point link between Ingle Farm and EARC, which is replacing the dead backup link from the failed Nana Bridge at the EARC at Ingle Farm. So that's getting a PowerBeam 620 AC with an ISO beam on one end, which I forget which end is that the EARC end? Yeah. With a rocket dish lightweight with a point-to-multipoint rocket with an ISO beam on it at the Ingle Farm end. Huh?
That's that link.
That's that link.
That's that link?
Correct. So hopefully it's good. Previously the Nana Bridge was connected to the sector and it was a fairly good link. Like the signal was pretty good. I don't know about the throughput. A bit far from Nana Bridge. Yeah. But yeah, so that should be a good primary or redundant or another path that whatever gets made when it happens. So that effectively cuts off this path here, which is Ingle Farm, UniSA, Gulfview Heights, TARC. Nothing wrong with that path, it's just good to have a backup.
Mm-hmm.
It has a tendency to go down for a whole weekend without notice.
Correct, so yeah, UniSA usually has 2 power outages a year, I believe it is.
Yeah, we've had 3 last 6 months.
Yeah, we still don't know why they happened. So UniSA's power hasn't been quite reliable and we don't know why, so that'll be good to provide backup for those guys. O'Halloran Hill is still pending a revisit to align that link. We almost got there last weekend, but we didn't quite get there. Running out of time and such. Now, a lot of work happened down south. I believe the guys, I can't remember what you guys did. What did you guys do? You were there.
So we realigned.
So for starters, Shiver's back up and running. I think we told about.
We realigned the point to Cement Hill. So getting neg 64 for that.
Which is odd because it got 5 dB worse when we raised the mast.
Yeah. We added another point-to-point link to, which is Microtech dishes to Lonsdale, and we replaced at Lonsdale. Also, we added another Microtech point-to-point, obviously, to Shadow, and we realigned the sectors.
Which is not on this map.
Yeah, because old data.
But you can see the node, it's there.
So we realigned the sectors because obviously the sectors went live in Shadow, so we got south ones facing at Shadow. So we moved the north facing Lonsdale ones to the east, and moved the other one around a bit more south because there wasn't really much coverage around the southern side.
People that were currently connected to the sectors have seemed to get a little bit better signal.
Yep.
Few dB.
And we
It all
replaced
counts.
one of the sectors as it was faulty.
Yeah, so yeah, also one of the rockets on one of the Lamboan sectors
Yeah, it died.
was dead, so we replaced it with a spare sector from Shadow Park.
Yeah, and thanks to Chris on that day, he did a lot for that
Yep.
build.
Haven't seen him in a while.
Good work, guys. Yeah, all
Yeah, it's good work. So the south has got some much needed love. But with Shadow Park back online and a point-to-point link going from Lonsdale to Shadow Park now and back to Cement Hill. I know Tony's benefiting from that speed.
No, no.
Cable fix where?
Shadow. Shadow.
Resolve ticket would works for me. Yeah, it works for me. Yeah. Yeah. It probably, yeah. There's just a bit of a cable issue with the Microtech dyne dish at Shadow Park that needs to be looked at. We believe it's a faulty cable, but we won't know until we're there. Go back there. I'm sure Adam will handle that.
The other
Which one? Oh, yes. We've talked about that before. I don't really have any updates for that. It's because it's not in here. Because incomplete minutes. So yeah, Ingle Farm's also getting a sector pointing towards. If you go back up to Ingle Farm,
My mouse isn't working too well, but yeah. I was trying to.
is that going to be a point rocket? Yeah, it is. 90-degree sector, 60-degree sector. So it's getting a 60-degree AC pointing AC sector.
in the exact direction.
That was sweet!
Yeah, that's actually really good. So yeah, there's a 60-degree sector that's going to be pointing exactly where there's no colour.
Can I just? That is not representational at all at the moment.
That's how Wi-Fi works.
It was pretty much randomising them as it loaded.
So yeah, there's a sector going there. So that's going to replace the current PG4 link. And
Looks
it'll also
impressive.
upgrade it to AC, and I believe that's a NanoBridge. That was, I believe, it's been having issues booting and
Well, you know why.
being reliable. So no
Hey,
problems. So that's all been approved, needs to be purchased and done. Does it bring up the Align page on the Ubiquity device? Because that'll impress me. That's a no.
I don't remember. Hang on.
There we go. No, there's a second direction.
What it does is, as you click it, it rotates, but it's freaking out at the moment.
Yeah.
Guarantee you it works, 100%.
It worked 3
Do
days
you want me
ago.
to actually show you something then?
One is it now?
Sorry, I
What?
wasn't listening.
No?
No.
You just defended your map.
Well, I did something to it a month ago when I was playing with it last.
Yeah, no problem. Next network updates about UniSA, which will come from Sam. Since
Yes, UniSA.
he is the project manager for that, so I'll let him speak. Yep, yeah.
This EARC Ingle Farm link, by the way.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay.
Pretty clear?
How come it? Yeah, no. Over there.
Over there.
One.
Cool. So UniSA sector.
Yeah, it's
Scale.
scale. That's not scale graph. It's not to scale.
You lot all right over there?
Sorry, man. Just explaining how that works. Nice.
Cool. So the sector at UniSA
Yeah.
is being upgraded to a AC light, which that will mean for the current clients on the sector, they'll have to upgrade to Beta 6. Otherwise, they'll lose their connection. They won't be able to connect to the sector. And
That's pretty important. Let's repeat that one more time. Any clients connecting to UniSA sector.
won't be able to
Right, I'll reiterate after now.
won't be able to connect. This is happening on the 18th of April. There's a ticket, and I sent out an
You
email.
did send an email, yeah?
Email to members linking to the ticket, and that's pretty much it.
Cool. Do you want to see the cool thing that happens when I click UniSA?
Do it.
Does it snap?
Yeah, it will. How many radios are
Thanks so
there?
much. Too many. It's radar. It's
I
detecting
think
where
I will
radar.
leave that as a little Easter egg for you.
Yeah, so just about the UniSA thing, one thing's very important. The clients will need to upgrade to the beta backwards compatibility firmware. I believe Sam provided links in the ticket. If you need a link or anything, ask me, ask any of the members network team. Anyone, we're happy to help you upgrading, do anything like that. Just to make sure that everyone on the sector gets upgraded before the 16th, 18th. Before the 16th would be great. So everyone can reconnect and we swap the rocket over. Yeah, so if you need any help, just send an email, network at, or talk to me, or talk to someone that can talk to me, or talk to someone that can help you. Lots of people can help you. Any questions network related? Or have I missed anything for the members of the network team that are here?
Was there another outage at Highgate for a while in the last
Yes,
Alright.
we know why that now.
Yeah.
So there was another outage at Highgate. Everyone would have known because they couldn't log into Tracker. I've resolved that issue now, so if Highgate goes down, I will have a link to LDAP still. We did discover the problem. It was UPS. So that's been removed for the moment. So the UPS was still functioning, I believe, you said, Tony, but it's not outputting any power in the back, but it doesn't. Yeah, well, it still charges. And when you unplug it from the power, it goes beep, and it makes it sound like it's putting out power, but no. So yeah, that's up for discussion at next month's network team meeting, decide what we're going to do with that. And there is a ticket for that. Excellent. Your turn, Troy.
Any other tickets you want to ping?
Any tickets I can think of.
You want?
Just go active tickets.
Sure.
What milestones do we have?
I don't think there are any. I just usually put that.
Sundrix had an outage because there was an issue at Mobbery. That's been fixed now. So that's back online. UniSA offline. Who created that ticket?
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Just right, I'll just say it was Necron. Yeah, that's right. I just like to remind, that's all good. A few arts reboots, firmware upgrades. Incomplete routing table at Harlan Hill. That's an issue we're working through, I think.
Nothing else that's
These
really-
4 to 7 Hargate issues, they've been resolved, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
The pigtail was faulty.
Yep, so faulty pigtail was throwing the chains out by 10 dB or something.
The other chain wasn't connected
Yeah.
at all, so the fact that it showed you the signal may have been a fault, just a report fault. Or maybe the link was good enough that some of the signal was making it to the
Yeah,
connector.
to the end connector.
Yeah.
Maybe. Once Hat's finished updating the ticket, didn't actually close
Do you
it.
want to close it?
Yeah.
But that was one that was up for debate whether or not we upgraded to an ACLR as well, like we're doing at UNSA. But I guess we should see how that goes first.
Did we vote against that?
We didn't vote for it.
Network team discussed it, I believe.
What action was taken? You replaced it?
No, pigtail was fixed.
I should pass the details. The rocket failed first,
Yeah, we replaced the rocket.
and there were the dodgy cheating details that come with the landline sectors. So after replacing the rocket, everything was fine, and I think it rained the next day, and after that, one of the chains was out by 30 dB.
Heaps.
Changing big customers.
All right. Nice.
It's resolved.
All right. Cool. Do you want to do a little segue into your demo, or?
Do you want me to
Hey,
say
cool,
where's my
huh?
demo? Okay, I'll go first. That's all right.
Well, I think it doesn't make much sense to go the other way around. Does it?
Maybe I want to sit down now. All good. So I'm going to
Drop the
carry
plug.
on from where I was last time. So last time we had set up just basic config on a MikroTik to do NAT to, with a VLAN to do connection to Parkside. And we had that working, so our local router from the subnet on the 750UP could ping out, and etc. So I'm going to go a bit further now, so of more in the sense of where you would have a 750UP on your network doing your Airstream stuff with an Airstream subnet, and then you'd have your local network in a 192.168 range. And you want to keep it like that, and you would use NAT to get out and some static routes. Pretty simple stuff, but here you go. It needs to be done for it to work. So basically the setup would be, because everyone's on this side anyways. So the setup would be, so this is the internet, this is Airstream, this is your home router. For example, in my case it's a Billion I've got here, or it could be a Fritzbox or other things. Then you've got your, obviously, another router, Airstream router, 750UP. It's plugged into your LAN somehow on a port. Your home router has an IP address of 192.168.1.254, and then your Airstream router's got, say, an IP address of 253. So they're on the same LAN. They can talk to each other via those IP addresses, which is good. But you'll notice that any of your computers connected to your home network with these addresses won't be able to get out to Airstream, and they won't know, and it will try and route out your internet, and it won't work. So in order to get traffic to pass from, so this is your default gateway. Sorry, I missed a step. This is your default gateway. So any traffic that your computer immediately doesn't know how to get to from its ARP table will go to your default gateway. And then your default gateway will decide what to do with it, whether that sends it out your default route on your gateway, which is to the internet, which will be out here, or whether it hits another route, it tells it to go to another place, and then that router routes out. So, for example, for that would be, so this is a Billion router. Can everyone see that okay? I hope so. I'm standing in front of it. So currently you can see that I can't, if you go to this tab here, the second tab along,
Zoom in a bit.
I can't reach the NanoStation at the moment. That's on the 750UP's LAN interface, which is a 10 dot range for LAN IP. And I'll just show you an example. Go to the members database. Next one. So that's this address here for our Airstream members node
So where's that on the diagram?
here. So the NanoStation's here, somewhere in here.
Somewhere between there and the A, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Go back to the billion. So basically what I want to do is I want to tell the billion to send the Airstream subnet to the 750 UP, or in our case 750 UP, or the other router to be routed. Zoom in. Control.
He knows how to do it.
Control
There
plus.
you go. Didn't bring
So we're going to add something called static route. So we're going to go to most routers, home routers have an advanced and a basic section. You want to go to advanced. So advanced setup. And then there'll probably be something along the lines of routing or advanced network configuration or something. And then in there you'll find something called static routing. Most routers support this. I mean, 20. Because I'm not connected to the internet, it can't
Wouldn't be a
download.
presentation if that didn't happen.
It's because it's running Bitdefender, it works Bitdefender, so it can't download the definitions. So this is the static route table. So obviously we've got nothing at the moment, so we're going to click add.
But normally the ADSL connection config or whatever there is already created as
It's already
default.
configured on there, yep.
It's
So
always a default route, which is through your ADSL.
correct, and it wouldn't show on the router. It would show in the status routing table, but it wouldn't show on this routing table.
Yeah.
But yes, there would be one. So we're going to make a static route. So this one obviously supports IPv6, so we can select IPv6 or 4, but we want to do 4. So destination IP address, path prefix. So, or path length, prefix length, sorry. Some routers are a bit funny with how they do this. So destination IP address is your destination subnet, basically. So that for Airstream, it's 10.96.0.0/11. I've started using 10.0.0.0.0/8 to include backend and some of the Melbourne stuff that we're VPN'd into. So for the purposes of this, I'll use that as it's what I've basically been configuring. So destination IP address, so that's going to be 10 dot or 10 dot in the box above up. So 10.0.0.0, and then it's going to use a // or a backslash. Yep. And some routers a bit iffy. Some want the subnet mask, some just want the prefix. So the subnet mask in this case is 255.0.0.0. We'll see if it works. See which one I want. So next thing is some home routers will ask for interface. So this will be on the LAN interface. It'll route this. So basically what it means is it's not, when it hits the LAN interface, it'll apply this static route. So you want to select LAN/BR0. Gateway IP address. Now this gateway IP address is the gateway of the router that knows about this subnet. For example, our 750 UP. So in that box we'll enter 192.168.1.253.
Which is
This is the
diagram.
copy grinder.
Yeah, which is here. Which is your 750 UP. Metric. I usually just set it to 1, but yeah, I'm sure there's a technical reason to not set it to that.
Metric only applies if there's more than one row.
Correct. Metric's basically like weight.
Yeah,
Sort of. So click apply, and we'll see if it actually accepts this configuration. The subnet.
I bet it doesn't.
No. So click OK, and just change 255.0.0.0 to /8.
Clever little router.
Now this works because you have 192.168 range. If your internal network is 10 dot,
Yeah, if your internal network is 10 dot, obviously that just be different. So the gateway address is the address of the router on your local network. If your local network is a different number, for example, might be 192.168.43. It all depends on how you configure that, but you'll have your default gateway router, which is your internet router, and you'll have your 750p with an IP address that you'll configure on it, and that'll be whatever is relevant to your scenario. So this should now theoretically work if we try going to that device. Why not? Because of outgrew issues. Oh, look at that. Done. Just open up a command prompt window for me. Yep. And just do tracert or tracert. And then go to that IP address that's in the web browser, so 10.112.0.231. Once it does its try, once it fails DNS lookup, give us some useful information. Oh, it's going to do it for every hop, isn't it?
Is that your segue into the DNS
No.
discussion? Alright.
Just do a control C, put -D in the middle of it. That's just
Up arrow. Was trying really hard to. So as you can see, it hit the 750p first, and then went to the device. So it's obviously going. You can see that it's hitting. You don't see it hit your default gateway. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, and then it goes out to the Airstream subnet on the 750p. Now, just try ping 192. No, sorry, ping 10.96.0.10s before you press enter. Get rid of that extra space. Okay, cool. So that's so from the setup we did before last week, where we did the natting out to Parkside, all that stuff. This is now working out to the greater Airstream network, so you should be able to ping any IP address like 10.106.16.11, which is where the internet comes from for this meeting. Done.
So that's the IP of the internet.
That's the IP of the internet. That one?
Yeah.
Sure, but I'm not. Maybe. Better ring Boy and ask him. Yeah, it's right down that was. Yeah. That one works, no DNS or internet. No problems. Anyone have any questions about static routing for the moment? Now, sorry, one thing I will say before we do this, because there's no BGP in place yet, or there's no dyno routing on the 750p, this subnet here that we're using to get to our nanostation still isn't accessible from Airstream. So we're currently still really only one IP on the Airstream network, unless there's a static route on the other end. But we'll go into that in another tutorial when we talk about BGP. Anyone have any questions?
How do I get the internet?
You don't. Yeah, connect to the wireless access point. Ring up, you have NBN. Cool, excellent. Which now Troy will talk about DNS and how our DNS systems work.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, I might do.
You might know how they work, or you might talk about it.
Yeah. No.
You going to sit over there?
Nah, I just want to.
Do you need me to drive or anything? Or? Oh, you got a mouse, that's right.
Just leave that running like that. Is it actually readable though?
Yeah, should be.
Yeah, so this is not exactly the same as that setup, but it's kind of indication of what was going on just then. And this is a similar trace of the path between our node here at the school and, in this example, the core router at the Elizabeth Water Tower. And you can see that's doing 10 little hops through the network before it gets there. It's giving you the thing, but the beauty of all of this is we can see what's going on very easily, because each of those addresses, as the computer is inspecting all of them, they're being turned into a name. These names are all automatically generated by our back-end systems whenever you add your node to the node database and give it a name, and then you associate it with connections to other nodes. These are automatically generated so that it's quite obvious then what path your data is taking between two nodes. As you can see, like this is going through Turingi, GSPV, Eagle Farm, all the way down to Elizabeth. So how is that all happening? I guess that's what we were really intending to try and explain in this presentation. At the moment, let's see what colour I should use. As most of you would know, but not everyone, I guess, knows how this stuff works, we have a database where members are encouraged to put in information about their location, and anytime they want to create addresses on the network that are accessible from other places on the network, they do that in this database, which is a simple web page that they can create them on. That's all living on one of our nodes in the network. At the moment it's over there at Underdale. Underdale. So there's a server over there which contains that information. That same database of information is then used to generate a configuration for DNS server software, which is some free open source software we're using. The package we use is called TinyDNS, and it's a very simple program that you can feed it a textual configuration and it will allow you to turn numbers into names and vice versa. That same configuration is then mirrored just by using a secure copy type protocol to a number of other nodes around the network, and typically at the moment these are nodes that are managed by other members that are more technically savvy, and they somewhat are guaranteed to be up 99% of the time. They're on stable power supplies and whatnot. Many of them also have internet access, so that if their connectivity drops, they can still grab a copy of the DNS database over the internet as well. But generally, we've tried to space them out in different geographical areas of the network. The reason we did that is obviously to reduce the requirement and the dependency on the single node at Underdale, having all that information. And if there's a client over here all the way across the other side of the network, and he wants to know where is earc.wen's IP address, his request then doesn't have to travel all the way over to Underdale and back again. And if there's some kind of outage there in between, he's obviously not going to know what that is, and that's when things break and you get the usual problems. Pages aren't loading, whatever. So the copy living somewhere near this guy can more easily be used that way. Part of our network also, or the design of our network, is based on a protocol called BGP. I'm sure that's a presentation for another time, but to keep it as simple as I can anyway, BGP allows you to distribute routing information, much like what Justin was just talking about. It's simply describing, do you want to get to a certain network range with a prefix of some numbers? What is the next hop in the network for me to get to that address? Okay, that information is stored in a big table of information, and that information is then shared across the network using BGP software. All the MikroTik and Ubiquiti and all these common vendors support that kind of technology, and we also use some open source software when we want to Linux-based stuff such as Quagga or whatever like that to do that. And that's what keeps the network running basically. So for example, if you had multiple paths, this is when it really comes into its own. If there was another path there and that path was to go offline, BGP will ensure that this computer uses this path instead. Okay, that's as simple as I'll go for this presentation. BGP also allows us to do some tricks, one of which is called Anycast. And Anycast is a simple way of broadcasting one IP address at multiple locations, which is typically not what you do. Normally this computer down here will have its own IP address of a.b.c.d, and when x.y.z.w what's going to do then? When he wants to talk to ABCD, he uses the BGP table to work that out, and that's fine. The trick is to also announce ABCD from over here as well. If we assume ABCD is the general IP address we'll be using, to be our DNS server. We're announcing that from all these locations at the same time. And conveniently, any client that is looking for that IP address will take the shortest path and get straight to it. So when someone down here is requesting a name, he can get that response immediately by just taking 2 hops. The response comes back, and he now knows what IP address is associated with that name. Of course, it's LMNO. And then he can communicate with the LMNO address computer, wherever that is on the network. So we do a little bit of configuration manually at these specific core network nodes to allow that all to happen. And that's part of a kind of standard that we've developed around Anycast and the DNS service system. This is all available on our wiki as well. Myself and a few other members have tried to keep that up to date as possible. I'll quickly just scan through what's available on there. It does describe a bit about how Anycast works as well, but listing the DNS servers that are involved in that configuration as well, and there's a bit more there on how to do split horizon, which I'll explain in a moment. Anyway, more information on the wiki if you want to go and have a read more about that. But that is generally how the system works. So the distributed database is kept in sync around all of these nodes. When this guy's asking for an EARC.WAN, he can ask the nearest node to him. Of course, if that one's offline, it'll just go one more hop to the next one, and he'll get the response from there. Works pretty good. It's still a work in progress, I guess. We don't have it kind of fully automated yet, but a lot of these nodes are configured. So part of our standard is anyway, if there's anything wrong with the DNS server such that it can't actually resolve a name properly, it will take itself offline and it will no longer broadcast. So say that one went offline, he would have been, that was the wrong one to cross out. He would have been announcing ABCD from there, and he'll stop announcing that, which means that he's no longer able to give you a response from that address, which means the next one will take over and so on. That makes it fairly fault tolerant, and it also means that you can be completely segmented from the network, but DNS is still working. Since it's such a core technology and it's something that everything relies on, that's pretty important. We are also welcome to offers from members with fairly substantial uptimes, I guess, to run more of these servers. The ones I've drawn here are the ones in that list in a very simple diagram, but we obviously, to distribute this information as much as possible across the network, we need sites around the place that are able to host something like that. It's only a very simple piece of software, so it just needs a small computer, or some embedded devices as well have been used in the past to do that. Excuse me, to do that. Feel free to get in touch with myself, network team, or committee, or whoever. You can even have a go at setting it up yourself. Preferably talk to someone before you start trying to announce using BGP, if possible. Obviously, if you do announce that IP address and it turns out that it's not resolving addresses properly, you can cause breakage in the network for other clients, so that wouldn't be very nice. And just those robots that detect these kinds of things will probably shut you down in a few minutes. So, yeah, you don't want that. No, there are ways of filtering out that address range such that only authorized servers can announce it. Mostly that's in place, so it shouldn't really happen, but just in case, it's always good to communicate what you're doing. Any questions? I think I went through that pretty quick, but that's the gist of it. We needed to touch on BGP a little bit there. BGP in this instance is really just used so that it can announce that same IP address. The IP addresses we use, 0 dot something.
0 or for 10.
Yeah, depending. So we've got a resolver. The resolver that most people will use is .10. When you're configuring your client connection, that makes it easy because then you just need to put one single IP address, whether it's into your laptop, telephone or whatever, or as part of your DHCP configuration, You can add that so that all the clients on your network can then resolve Airstream DNS. This will also resolve internet names usually. Now, importantly, that will depend on the node that you've connected to. But part of our requirements of running one of these systems is that can also resolve internet names, I believe, isn't it? Yeah. So, whilst that will do the .wan domain names, as we showed you in the trace route there, it'll also resolve internet names, which means you can use that as your single DNS server in your configuration, and everything should work fine. Now, if you didn't want to do that and you still wanted to use an internet name server, one reason may be you don't want to rely on that for all of your domain name services within your local network. You can set up something called Split Horizon DNS. There are guides to doing this on the wiki page. In fact, most of that page is about how to set up Split Horizon DNS. Generally, the examples that are here are for things like DNSMask, which is a package for Linux operating systems. Some embedded devices use it. OpenWRT devices can use that very easily, or anything similar or based on that. You know, Raspberry Pi, whatever. Anything running any kind of Linux variant can run DNSMask. There's the config. What does it do? Right. Let's assume this is your main router, wherever it may be. Split Horizon allows you to put a simple rule into this router that will cause anything ending with WAN to go out through your Airstream connection. Why is that line there?
Because I
Should probably be there.
I drew another router.
Yeah, I'll do it through that line. Let's do that. So any .wans will take the Airstream path, and they'll hit eventually the Airstream resolver, which will respond with the address for whatever that was. If, however, you were to request something that wasn't ending in .wan, you can have that going out your normal internet connection to an internet resolver somewhere, which is very nice. The beauty of all of that is you only then need a single address once again for all your computers, so you know you may be doing it on 254, maybe doing your Split Horizon DNS 681.254 would be your DNS server configuration for your computers on your local network. When a request comes through though, this router or this computer or this Raspberry Pi or whatever this thing is will make the decision where to send that. That was a highly requested feature not so long ago, and we went to the effort of putting together these guides of how you'd configure that on common software packages. You've got Bind in there as well, which is a very common DNS system, DNSMask, and obviously on Router OS as well, you can do it. Bit of a firewall rule. And DNSMask. So, I mean, if anyone else has any other suggestions on how you can do that with a piece of software, I mean, there's nothing here for Windows, for example. If you were running a Windows server, a Split Horizon DNS setup for that would probably be a nice addition to this page. Anyone here running a Windows server as their main kind of, yeah, or a VM? Yeah, so if you can work it out and it's not too bad, maybe throw it on there as well. That's the general gist. What have I missed? Anything else? Any other questions related?
I had a question.
Yeah.
How do you not age?
Special formula of herbs and spices. Yeah, coffee and donuts. Alright, so here's an example. That's nice. Maybe we want to someone pick a network node somewhere. I'll show you some resolution of names. What?
Yeah, I see.
Get original, man. Come on.
Shot it off. Full on shot it.
There's a shy dope hardware.
Walkley
Work out
Heights.
if you can work out.
So,
Yeah.
Dig is a simple tool for doing domain name resolution. You can see we've asked the question, where is shadowpark.wan? What's the A record for shadowpark.wan? And we have received an answer that will be valid for the next 5 minutes. There he is, 10, 100, 1225. Query took 700 milliseconds, and you can see here also, which is important, if you ever do use dig or NSLOOKUP, the tool on Windows command line is similar as well. It'll tell you what server it used to give you the response. So if you're ever having trouble trying to debug what's going on with your DNS, always check what server it's actually using to give you the result. Sometimes it won't come up with a server, or it'll be using some internet server. Obviously, internet servers, or if you haven't got your split horizon set up and it's using your local router as the resolver, it's not going to work too well, and you probably get no answer section at all. So in this case, it's using the Anycast resolver because we're here at Parkside and it's going out through the connection that Justo set up.
What servers are you?
What server?
What servers? What 10.96.0.10 are we using?
Well, yeah, you'd have to trace to it, sure.
Maybe let's not break it. Yeah, it should be.
Why are we breaking things? Yeah, so that's a good question. We can tell now from the dynamic routing which path are we taking to get to the nearest clone of our DNS resolver. Sure enough, it's the one at Undernail because Justo broke something. If you fix it,
No, I'm not going to break it so you can see it goes somewhere.
yeah, sure. So he's gonna stuff around and we'll see this switch take a different path.
Does it make it bigger?
Yes, it does.
Why did it get smaller?
Because you moved your mouse.
That better?
Yeah.
Right. So we're at Parkside, go through Highgate, straight to Underdale from Highgate. Pretty much 3 hops. 1096.0.10 also reverse lookup will give you the real name, which is resolve.airstream.wan. This is a very useful diagnostic step as well if you've got traceroute or MTR or some program like that that can show you which path it's taking to the server.
There you go.
Now it's going somewhere else.
Just a break it.
Yeah.
Where's the ticket? Quick.
Yep, we're off to Valley View now. I'll reset it. There you go. So there's an example of why BGP is being used for such a thing. Pretty handy.
Look, now come out.
It doesn't make much sense though when it does that, does it?
Oh, no, because the trace route doesn't dodge it just resolves it.
Yeah, it's not clearing it anyway. Cool. Resolve airstream.wan. So we set up the names for the very top level airstream ones manually as part of the core configuration. There's a number of other ones that are set up manually, and of course if you go into the database and you name your node Sean.wan, you will indeed get a DNS name, Sean.wan, which will point to one of your hosts on that. Yeah, you probably could, to be honest. Try looking it up for you. The general map we've used, and I'm sure we've discussed this before, but I'll just go over it one more time. The automatically generated backbone DNS, which you can't see any in that one, but you saw them before. For each end of a link that's specified as a backbone link in the database, you get a to and a from name.backbones.wan. WAN. And there's the inverse for that for the other end of that link. So you can kind of tell which one you've actually hit. So that'll be like a.b.backbones.wan, oh, sorry, a-b. You've also got node name .wan, whatever you've called your node name. You can then give yourself hosts within that. So there's your host 1, host 2, and so on. You know, you might want to give yourself a www.sean.wan or whatever it is. By setting up those host aliases through the database, you can easily do that. And you can assign them to which address you want that to resolve to as well. The reverse name There's two types of DNS lookup, a forward and a reverse. The forward lookup is resolving a name into a number. As you've seen, we've got these backbones.wan or whatever. They're all forward lookups. And the reverse lookup is the opposite of that. It's looking up a number and finding out what name it has. Obviously, you can only have one name when you're doing the reverse lookup. So we automatically generate those names in this pattern. But you can create as many forward lookups as you want. So host 1, host 2 and www could all point to the same IP address. 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever. And you can create as many of those as you want using the host alias function in the database. But you can't at the moment, at least I'm not sure if you can easily do it, but the reverse lookup is always the kind of like the first one that you've made for an IP address. So there will be a master one, normally what you've called the host. Perhaps we should just show that, might be easier. That's not the right one.
Looks like a video that's not one.
It's not in this page. No. You would be right about that. Alright, so let's look at something random like, any of these even have host information in it?
Because you don't actually manage it.
We'll look at ERC because that's a topic of discussion for today. So jumping to your node information page,
Wow.
when you define an access point, it gets the automatic
How many?
IP address allocated, and that, I'm pretty sure that will resolve to AP dot. So you can see there's an AP dot, or there's an AP for Airstream EARC. We should be able to,
Genesis just this week.
there you go. And indeed, 121.133.1. And if we did a reverse lookup on that IP, -X, it says that IP is pointing to AP. Now, I don't know if there's any in here that would have any aliases on them. Let's just create one. So, looking at SW1, which is obviously a switch or something. There we go, it is online. There are no aliases, but we could just as easily create an alias in here, call it switch1, and then you can do a forward lookup for SW1 or switch1 and get the same address, but the reverse lookup will always go to this main name here, SW1. Alright, and that all happens automatically. If you want to do manual stuff, there is the ability to do that. And often members do request that. And all that means is if you want to run your own DNS configuration at your node because you know how to, we can delegate a section of the domain name space to be looked up directly at your location. So here's Mr. X. Mr. X runs his own DNS server for MrX.WAN, and instead of doing all the configuration through the node database system, he just wants anyone looking for MrX.WANs to ask his server directly. That's fine. He won't get the benefit of that distributed nature there, obviously. He's cool with that. So what we do is put a configuration in that tells all of these servers, anytime someone asks for that, delegate that back to his server. Which means always those requests have to come back to him to be answered. And that's an alternate configuration that you're welcome to play with if you like. Just need to contact the network team, really, or myself. I think that's pretty much everything DNS that I can recall. A couple of you guys are actually doing delegations in here, aren't you? Should we try and look one up?
MN.WAN.
What's yours again?
MN.WAN.
What? Give me a host name.
So that should
You
work.
can do AC to WFX.WAN. That
works.
actually resolves the Airstream IC server. WFX, yeah.
Right? Cool. Interestingly, that
No,
didn't.
it doesn't.
Hey, I can tell that you gave it to me because it's a 1 hour TTL on it. So, we still got our response from an Anycast server, but this this question and answer actually came from Justo's server directly in the background. So that's about it. Might look a bit complicated now if you were to look at it without having had all that preliminary stuff. Cool. So yeah, any questions? Feel free to ask. We'd love to elaborate more on the whole routing and DNS setup. A lot of this is more technical, but the basics are: once you've got your client online, there's a single DNS IP address you can use, and it should always work no matter where you are or if there's any breakage in the network. Alrighty. So apart from that, you guys must be pretty cluey on all this stuff. There's never any questions. It's a bit worrying, actually. But if you do have questions, I guess we can answer them in the next session. So feel free to email or send us a question somehow through the chat, so that we can make sure everyone's getting all the info they need. We don't really do a lot of preparation here. A lot of this was ad hoc, so trying to just cover it as much as we can. Alrighty.
Does have a question.
Hi.
Hi. If I don't use split DNS, can the person running the 10.96.0.10 DNS server see what websites I go to?
If you're not using it, yes. Yes. So that is worth being aware of. As you make queries for domain names, they're eventually going to hit a server somewhere, and I guess it's no different on the internet really, but whoever's running that server can see those queries coming from you. So it's worth being aware of, yeah, for sure. If you want to do your midnight whatevers you do, yeah, you probably shouldn't use that. Not that it's a big deal. I doubt they're sitting there watching it actively, but you know, the point is, yeah, if you're a security conscious person, you would probably know that already. Does that answer your question? I guess it does. Cool. No, the question was, if you are solely using the Airstream resolver as your resolver, you know, when you go to facebook.com, there's a query and a response for facebook.com. It comes up on the server. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up. Anyway, so again, Airstream Barbecue next week. Please let us know if you can make it down. Woodville, Bunnings, anytime during the day.
We'll have to know soon because we'll have to.
Yeah, I think if we don't know a decent number by the weekend, we'll probably have to give it a miss, which would be very unfortunate. And I know that Tony will be in tears for about a week after that, after the effort he's gone through to get it arranged. I mean, unfortunately, we didn't get it on a weekend like we have the others, but you really got to just take what you can get with Bunnings because they're so backed up with their bookings. Other than that, any suggestions for next month's tech demo or following months after that, let us know. Otherwise, I think we'll probably just continue with the client configuration and perhaps move more into the dynamic routing. As Justin mentioned, the static configuration is the simplest you could possibly need to get online and connected to the Airstream network. It doesn't allow other people on the Airstream network to directly communicate with your computers, which is good in the initial sense that people want that security layer to know that, much like on the internet, because everything's being translated to one IP address, your computers are somewhat hidden within your network. The more advanced step beyond that is to use a dynamic routing protocol so that you can set up servers. If you wanted to host your own website, whatever, you can run your own servers or virtual machines even. A lot of us use virtual machines these days to do that. And they then become fully accessible from anywhere else on the network, which makes you a service provider and you can do whatever you like. You can run a voice system or start a music streaming service, you know, bedroom DJing or something, whatever you want to do. No one's doing that anymore. We used to have a few people doing that. All right. So we may continue on that vein. Sounds good to me. Thanks for listening. Hope it was interesting, and we'll see you next month.